Hi, folks. It's John Kraska with Every Library, the Every Library Institute's Banned Books Week 2025. We're having a series of conversations with authors who, some of them who are banned, some of them who are not banned, even though it is Banned Books Week, because what we want to talk about is the powerful work that is done by authors, transformative work, work that centers on the reader and the lived experience of them as writers. Whether there's been something as heinous as a book ban that's come across their radar or not, that doesn't really, I mean, it's important, but what I want to talk about is why books get banned in the first place. It's because of the power of story. It's the power of connection. It's the empathy inside those stories that I think sometimes causes bans to happen. And today, we're meeting with a whole bunch of folks during Banned Books Week. All of everything that's happened so far is available for on-demand viewing on Every Library Live, on Facebook, on Every Library Live, on YouTube, and everything coming up will be available in real time, of course, but also on demand for weeks and weeks and weeks afterwards. But today, I'm joined by Christopher Stewart, a longtime colleague of mine, an award-winning school librarian, faculty member. Christopher's an activist as a children's author. You might know him as the Peace and Love Librarian in several different contexts. Christopher, it's a real pleasure to be with you here today to talk about your writing as an author of the Becoming Ari series and the Secret Kindness Society, but also to talk about the activism that centers our relationship, actually. It's really great to see you in this kind of a context.
Oh, it's so good to see you, John. So good to see you. And thank you. Thank you and Every Library for having me.
Oh, for sure. So you and I first started this conversation about getting on camera together back in December of 2024. It's now October 2025 for the Every Library Live events and Banned Books Week. Lots been going on since you and I chatted last about this, but not the least of which is the book series. So Becoming Ari, can you take our watchers, our listeners through why you wrote it, what it's about, and what your hopes are a little bit?
Yes. So, Becoming Ari is a series about a little boy named Ari, who's 9 years old, who's the protagonist. He's Black and Indian, and he creates a secret kindness society with his diverse group of friends. A society that is meant, they get into, they're a little rambunctious at times, but the goal is to make sure that they are being joyful, spreading joy and love and peace, and of course, kindness. So, my wife, my incredible wife, is Indian, Indian American. Um, Shout out Kerala in South India.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we have three beautiful, amazing children, Sanaya, Nadia, and Christopher the second. And when looking at collections, uh, you really don't see a lot of mixed characters, whether you were looking at children's books or young adult books, and even sometimes adult books. So I wanted to make sure that they saw that representation. Also in my school where I serve, and every student needs to be able to see themselves while also being able to appreciate others. And of course, spreading love and peace is just like, you got to do it. Uh,
Yes. Yeah. No, the so your own family, your students, the stories in the Becoming Ari series look at a lot of challenges that kids face, and that secret kindness society. And I love the term of art there, the secret kindness society. Kindness society by itself is great, but the secret part, there's a certain warmth and compassion and privacy though in here about how these kids come together to help. I mean, you're talking about hunger, you're talking about housing, you're talking about literacy as a gateway. I mean, Christopher, you're taking on some big challenges here.
yeah, with shout out to Lerner, of course, my publisher, but
Mhm.
wanting to make sure that these conversations that I wrestled with as a child, and sometimes in my own children wrestle with, as far as just trying to figure out how to serve when seeing uh, so much poverty or so many issues going on in the world.
Hmm.
And also looking at it like, if one of my neighbors is experiencing any of these things, then I too am experiencing it, and
Hmm.
trying to make sure that at a young age that they understand that. Um, you know, I think once students at a very young age understand it, then they become these global leaders that know that they are empowered to do something about it, as opposed to simply walking past it or judging those who are experiencing some of the things that Ari and his friends experience in the book series.
The peace and love and kindness get a lot of they get a lot of traction in literature,
Mhm.
but how do you reserve space in a classroom setting or in your school library for it legitimately? Because you can put up hate has no home here
Mhm.
on the door, but you can't enforce
Mhm.
kindness. I mean, how do you help kids find it and embody it?
That's such a beautiful question. So I think you simply have to be it, and you have to, and this is a work in progress every day. There is not, perfection does not reside, certainly in me,
That's an
um,
interesting phrase, but go ahead.
one has to strive for perfection, or strive for that joy and that peace. Um, and a lot of times that is sacrificial, because you want to make sure that you're being as selfless, but also humble, and while also, you know, respecting oneself and seeing oneself. So when you're looking at it from a classroom perspective, or even a library, like, I'm actually currently in the peace, love, and meditation room.
Nice.
So I came to check, and came to my school in 2017,
Hmm.
and in 2018, I saw that the school, which served over 1,500 students at the time, needed a space where educators, visitors, students could come to any time of the day to just get away. Whether it's music, whether it's a snack, whether it's just simply um, a prayer rug, a meditation space, needing to just get away. Infusing that into the culture of the school
Hmm.
was important. Um, the SEL moments, the conversations that we have, not
I'm sorry.
only
Tell me again what kind of moments I missed that.
so SEL, social emotional learning
Thank you.
moments.
Hmm.
These moments require us to think broadly about not only who we are, um, but also who we want to become, and how we all ought to serve.
Well, in the Becoming Ari series, and I mean, kindness is a force of change in these kids' lives. I mean, the lack of kindness certainly is a particular direction. There's momentum in someone's life when there's not, when they are not being kind, of course, to others, but when kindness is not visited upon them, also. I mean,
Yeah,
kindness is a change agent in your books.
absolutely. It's a change agent that that allows for them to also recognize that they feel good when doing it. That it's for the other person, but it's also for you too. You feel differently when you open that door for someone. Or in the case of the Page Turner project, when Ari, you know, um, couldn't find a book that really resonated with him, but
Hmm.
he wanted to make sure, once finding a book from his incredible librarian, that he also wanted to make sure that the class, all his fellow students, um, could also find a book and see representation.
Hmm.
So just thinking outside of yourself, really, to make sure that other people can have that joy and kindness too.
Well, I want to talk about that representation as well, because you mentioned before about the character being rather unique in children's literature. But so let's talk about space for that first, and let's talk about representation. The meditation space that you built, that you're in right now, it's been there 9 years. The book clubs that you've put together, the programs that have put humans into context with other humans, whether they're little humans or big humans, family connections as well. Your school librarian experience, your knowledge base, your identity. How does that fuel your writing? How does that fuel this activism that you do?
I mean, my babies, I call them my students. Whether they are 6'2" football player,
Hmm.
uh, whether whether they are a bookie like me, who wants to
Hmm.
hang out in the library, and many of my football players do too, but and our bookies. But regardless of who they are, um, making sure that they have room um, to be in this space.
Hmm.
And you know what? And repeat your question one more time because I got excited about.
No, I
Yeah.
get you. I get you. And I'm picturing those really big little babies of yours. That's really fantastic. You know, but the idea that your school librarianship is you wear it on your sleeve, Christopher. You know, like how does that move you as a writer and an activist?
Yes. So you know, I take them on the journey too. To have over 60 students who are experiencing houselessness in some way, whether they're couch surfing or staying at homeless shelters,
Hmm.
um, to have students who are struggling with Lexile levels, maybe even had to repeat a grade or reading level as second or third grade, and struggling with confidence. um, I take that on the journey with me as I write, and I think about them always, and as well as my own children. And then the representation, of course, is big, not just as far as the diversity piece, but also as far as struggling to find a book that
Hmm.
they love, or maybe in feeding friends, um, making sure that they can volunteer at with their church or at a soup kitchen to give food to others. Maybe they're the ones that are seeking the food or giving the food. So just you know I think as a whole, making sure the representation in every way and appreciation of one another as far as humanity is concerned, being able to see others and recognize the strengths that others carry is what I carry into the writing process,
Hmm.
from I guess my librarian hat.
I think that's pretty authentic. Also, but I think that it's interesting. You are one of very few black men in school librarianship. You know, the national stats are it's definitely under 5%, maybe as little as 2% of the workforce census are black men, and I know a lot of white women. You know, in school libraries. Um, I think it's very important, though, for a man like you to show up for your students and the work that you're doing with sons and fathers and the work that
Mm.
you're doing as a librarian. I mean, are you hoping to inspire other like younger black kids to become librarians?
Oh my gosh, younger black, Asian,
Hmm.
uh, of course, Hispanic, Latino, white,
Hmm.
like more men. Period in
More
the
men.
field.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, we need more men. Um, I love the ladies. They're doing their thing, but we
Hmm.
need more men in the field.
Yeah.
For sure, and certainly, of course, more black men uh, in the field, and Hispanic and Asian as well.
Hmm.
I think one of the big things that really fueled me in creating the Library Brand Ambassador program a few years back was that very thing of passing this so-called torch to an extent. Um, I remember in seminary, I had a professor, Dr. Shropshire, and he was an incredible professor. One of the first questions he asked was, when you think about a succession plan, for those of you all who are already pastoring, when
Hmm.
you think of a succession plan, what is your succession plan?
Hmm.
And so, as far as the number of years, and many called out 10 years or 15 years, and he said, no, you are failing your congregations. If you don't have 100-year plan, you have literally been selfish in thinking about how you can lead as opposed
Hmm.
to making sure that you're preparing others. And it was so powerful because, um, I am not going to be a school librarian forever. And if I do not make sure that every student has access to the resources, but also the knowledge, then what am I doing? What am I here for? So the Library Brand Ambassador Program, it pays for students $20 an hour. And, you know, they do incredible work in the library, helping with programs, collection development, spreading the word about the library, and they also get a little taste of being a circulation assistant or a library aide, and some have definitely talked about their interest in library science. So it's beautiful. Yeah.
That it's so interesting that the opportunity for somebody to do it without it being for free. I mean, I really want to applaud you for putting money behind it and getting money put behind it, because this whole, like, we're going to play act being a librarian because it's nice and fun. No, it's a career. It's a
Yes.
career. It is. And you've done some things, Christopher, that I want to lift up. I mean, first off, your Mover and Shaker awards, the other awards and recognitions you've gotten, but that one in particular from the library community for the work that you've done, but also where our collegial relationship has started, which was focusing on the future of school library work. And in your own home district of Washington, D.C., we got to meet because of the activism that you were doing alongside our colleague Casey Boyd, who was the Librarian of the Year, School Librarian of the Year a couple of years ago. She's on my Every Library Institute board. We're constantly co-conspiring about ways to support the future of school library work. Elizabeth Davis from WTU6, the local union, as a real leader of beloved memory. I mean, you've put your activism to work in very practical ways for your students, but also for the profession. And I got to tell you, I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, John. It's I mean, I literally count it all joy to be able to do this work and really this service. I look at it as a calling. I stayed back when I was in elementary school. I couldn't stand reading. Reading didn't like me, I felt, so I didn't like it back.
It's interesting. I think that. I felt the same way about mathematics, but go ahead. Yeah.
And so, I really struggled with it. And so I didn't know, I thought I was going to become an OBGYN, going into chemistry in college. But little did I know that God had different plans for me. And, to inspire and encourage others, really, you have to have a test. And that test oftentimes, of course, becomes a testimony that fuels what you do, the passion behind it. And so activism is at the core, because if, to be able to become disruptors and cause some good trouble to happen as it pertains to literacy and readership and access, that's really what it's all about. And doing it in I always say I peacefully fight. Because it's no way in which I'm going to become what I'm trying to fight against. But I combat it with that love and that seems to work.
The campaign to put a school librarian in every school in Washington, D.C., the work that was done by you and Casey and several others, especially on the union side, was very much about truth telling, in my opinion. That it was telling the truth to city council, it was telling the truth to the board. Now, there were truth tellers alongside you there, on the state, the school library board in Washington, D.C. You had some real allies, you had some real allies in city council. But you made something happen, which is they put tax money to work on education in a new way. I mean, that's a victory.
It is. It is certainly a victory. I think when the intent is not to shame, the intent is to enlighten. And that can sometimes be a very thin line. And sometimes you want to go to the shame portion when you see that something needs to happen. But when you lean into the enlighten, just making sure that people are aware and exposed to the truth, like you said, the truth telling, then sometimes, especially I think also the approach, it can hit the heart, and that's what you want. You want people to really, think about it, but also let it hit the heart and say, "Dang, what are we doing? Like we have schools that don't have a librarian. How equitable is that? But we say we're anti-racist. We say that we're, so you start to think like, oh, okay, like what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, you're absolutely right. The Street Books initiative you did, the Food for the Soul initiative you did, and folks, we're going to be putting some links up here in the chat. But those initiatives are I think interrelated to the type of school library infrastructure you're trying to build as well. You know that you're working on in a ministerial way, if I may. You have one person at a time. You know, like, and we're going to line everybody up, and we're going to help. You know,
Yeah.
and then as a school librarian, you've got these systems approaches to say, okay, we're going to work on the injustice of illiteracy. We're going to work on the injustice of access that compounds poverty. It's a whole cloth approach, Christopher, and I admire it.
Thank you, John. You know, you just want people to be okay. I mean, in a nutshell, it sounds very, but utopian. But you really just want people to be okay and to want others to be okay. That's
Right.
simply what it's about.
Yeah. Well, let's come back around to the Becoming Ari series as we're wrapping up our conversation today. Well, actually, I want to do two things before we wrap up. I want to come back around to Becoming Ari because the Secret Kindness Society, I don't think it should be secret. You know, I understand why that there's confidentiality there and there's privacy, and some of these situations are done with compassion. But the Out Loud Kindness Society that Ari and his friends are part of, I think that's a great lesson. What age group are your books for, by the way?
Yeah, so really 7 to 10. These are, and it can range, but 7 to 10 usually grades 1 to 3, grades 1 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then with the Becoming Ari series, what are your plans?
So I actually will be at AASL on a panel coming up soon.
And for our civilians, that's the American Association of School Librarians.
Yes, I do apologize. All these acronyms. Yes.
Well, I had to catch up on SEL because I'm not an educator, but I know what you said when you meant. I know what you meant when you said it. Yeah.
And and continue to kind of tour around. I had the pleasure of touring the summer a little bit and just spreading the word in libraries and bookstores and spreading Ari, spreading the Secret Kindness or Out Loud Kindness. I like that too. And continuing to be present as far as ending houselessness and poverty and
That's fantastic. All right, Christopher Stewart, you've been a great conversation today as part of Banned Books Week. I don't want to end on a down note. We're in a period here where book bans are being used all over the country as a form of they negate kindness. You know, the idea that if you have a book about someone else, or if you have a book that exposes you to a new set of ideas or a new way of thinking, or a book even like the Becoming Ari series that encourages censorship right now, man, it's so much of it is not about the First Amendment. It's about hitting people in their heart.
Yeah. I think I teach a class on library leadership and management at Syracuse University, and we talk. I'm very. It's very important to me to make sure that they understand this concept of censorship and why we need to make sure that in every environment that we equip librarians with ensuring that their communities have access to knowledge and also the digital age and knowledge to access to every single book out there. And looking, of course, at our babies and making sure that different books are appropriate for, a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old. But overall, as far as, banning books, no, that's never okay. And also making sure that we build those relationships within my environment with parents. I won a grant for the 1619 Project, Nicole Hannah Jones. for every person in my school to get, it was over 2,000 books. So every student, every educator received a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a couple of parents reach out and say, I don't want my child to have this book because it's not truth telling and it's a lie. And so I invited those parents into the library for brunch and to have a conversation. And one of them was not able to make it, but we had a great conversation. And they didn't. Neither one of them had read the book, knew anything really about the book, and the 17 authors who authored the book, or Nicole Hannah Jones. But after getting finished with both of them, they changed their minds. So it's and I've received other conversations with parents and material. So I think just having an open conversation is essential. And yeah, even if disagreeing, to understand that we should stand firm. I choose to stand firm on making sure that individuals have access and knowledge, because erasure is real. And that's why I choose to make sure that my babies also have access to the museums galore. And all because, the exhibits are being threatened. So what do? We create our own digitized versions too, so that they have those as a keepsake, to have that knowledge. Yeah.
I think that the identification of the knowledge gaps and hearsay, the actual taking the time to sit down and have a human contact, a meal even with folks who are perhaps prejudging, something. And also that identification that censorship is erasure. Christopher, there's not a lot of daylight between our approaches to how the world should be set up. So it's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Pleasure talking to you, John. Thank you.
All right, team. This has been Christopher Stewart, the Peace and Love Librarian, author of the Becoming Ari series. It's Banned Books Week 2025. Please stay with us as today progresses. Some other great conversations as the week progresses, and then retrospectively catch up, because these conversations are they're thought-provoking, but they also, I think, live a little bit in your heart. And that sometimes is scary, but it's also really powerful. So, Christopher, here at Every Library Live, we always wave at the camera. I put up the title card, and then we talk to each other in the green room after we're done. So thanks for being with me.
Thank you.